All right, instead of transforming some points on a graph, we're going to just do a single point. And it puts more emphasis on creating the rules than it does necessarily the graph. The graph, you have to find one rule and you have to do it to 6 points or whatever. So here I like to do way more rules and there's only 1 point. So anyways, let's take a look at the first one. Step number 1, it's maybe more obvious on the graph where you have to take the all the points along the bottom and flip them to the top. So like we did here, this one went up to here. Now notice the x value didn't change. So the x here was 5, 6, 7. And this point, the x value is also 7. So 7 stayed, but this went from -4. The y value was a -4, and it went to a +4. So our y value has to change. So step number 1 is just to do the absolute. So the absolute is the first thing, and all it does is it's the absolute value of the y. And in this case, the absolute value of -6 is just 6. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 would then be the rule. And we can then look at this drawing and look at this equation, and we can find out what the rule is. So for the x stuff, it says only thing is a -12, so we'll go +12. And then for the y stuff, it says times by 2, so we'll go 2y plus 14. So it's a relatively straightforward rule. And like we've done so much already, you just take the x value, put it in. So 8 plus 12 is 20. And -6, doubled, is -12. -12 plus 14 is 2. Unless it's a positive. It's not -6. It's our new point right here that we have to put in. Ooh, that's a good catch. So we have to use 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 14 would end up being 26. So we had to don't use this point. In fact, what I should do is right here now, cross this off and say my point is 8, 6, because it only works if they're all absolute values. So absolute value symbol, absolute value symbol, absolute value symbol, absolute value, yes, they're all absolute values. So I don't have to worry about this is my new point. Okay, so for the next one, because I already have my new point, I can just work on step number 2, which is the rule. Oh, except I can't do that immediately. I need to get the x alone. So y equals -1/2, absolute value, f, factor out a 2, and you're left with, if you divide by 2, just an x, divide by 2 is a 9. So this is our rule. And now we've got our x. So this is x times by 2, so we'll go x divided by 2, and plus 9 becomes a -9. And then our y is times by -1/2, so I'm going to take my y and times it by -1/2, and then -22. So this could be cleaned up a little bit. This x over 2 is fine, -9 fine, but this y times -1 is a -y. 2 is on the denominator, -22. So that looks a little bit nicer. And now I need to take my x value, which I've already forgotten. Was it an 8? 8 and 6. So take my 8, cut it in half, it's 4. 4 minus 9 is going to be -5. And then 6, so this is a -6. -6 over 2 is -3. -22 is -25. Nice. So I guess just remember to take out the 2. This would be good just for practice to write down, and it doesn't ask for it, but it's always good to do at least one of these. What are the things that are happening? So let's talk about the horizontal stuff. So what are the things happening with the horizontal? Well, I'm cutting it in half. I'm dividing by 2, so it's a compression. So it's a horizontal compression by 2. And then I've also got a -9, so that's going to be left, because left is minus, so left 9. Now for the vertical, what do we have? Well, first there's a negative, so we've got a vertical flip. you're also cutting in half, so we've got a vertical compression by 2. And then we have this 22, and because it's negative, it's heading down. So it's good to keep all of those in the back of our mind as we do all of these, even though it's not being asked on an assessment. It definitely would be. Okay, let's do C here, and then the other ones we can do on the next video. So I've got, I got a new point. Okay, so I'm going to have to take the absolute value of this. So this is -8, and you only have to do the absolute value of the y, so the 6. The absolute value of 6 is just 6. So this is our new point, which is actually which is exactly the same as the old point. Nothing's changed because the y value was already above the x-axis. It was already a positive number. That point would have been -8, 6. It would have been up here. There was no need to flip it up top because it's already up top. Now, what do we have for our rule? So this says x times a half. So let me just write this part. It says times, so I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to divide. X divided by a half. And that's it. There's no plus or minus. And then the y is timesing by -2. So we're going to times it by -2, and then we're going to minus 34. Exactly what it says. Now when you divide x divided by a half, that's the same thing as timesing by 2. So this is actually a 2 times x. And this I'll put a -2y minus 34. Let's now take our point and put it into this rule. So -8, my new point's up here, which is exactly the same as the old one. But 2 times -8 is going to be -16. And then 6 times -2 is -12. -12 minus 34 is -46. So that's our new point. Just for the heck of it, let's write down what some transformations are. So let's do the horizontal stuff first. It's only timesing by 2, so that's going to be an expansion. So it's going to be a horizontal, I'm not going to write the whole word, horizontal expansion by 2. You could say by a factor of a half, but I'm going to say by 2 because I'm timesing it by 2. That's the only thing. So vertical, I've got a vertical flip. And you could say around the x-axis. You don't always have to say it, but it's kind of nice to say around or about or in the x-axis. So we've got the vertical flip. We've got, now is it a compression or an expansion? We're timesing it by 2. We're making it bigger. So let's go expansion by 2. And then we also have down by 34. So those are all the transformations that are happening. This is our new point after it's been transformed with the absolute value as well. So we'll do the next 3 questions on the next video, and that will be that'll be the end of absolute values, and we'll go into inverses after that.